Welcome, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Olivier, and thanks for being here on the last day, the afternoon of the last day of the conference. And yeah, welcome to my talk, What's New in CDEvents v0.4. A couple of words about myself. My name is Andrea Frittoli. I'm an open source advocate at IBM. I live in Wales and enjoy the wind, as you can see from my picture there. I'm the co-creator and maintainer of the CDEvents project, and I serve for the Continuous Delivery Foundation as chair of the TOC and member of the governing board as well. And today we'll talk a bit about Software Factory, CDEvents, of course, and then we'll see what's new in the project and what's the roadmap ahead. So today's Software Factory can be a really complex beast. And if I try to put it down in a very simplistic block diagram here. Often you can see you will have multiple code repositories. Even though most are Git now, you may even have different SCMs there. You could have one or more build systems with several pipelines, testing pipelines, signing technologies for artifacts. Of course, you may have one or more places where these artifacts are stored, and then you will have deployment pipelines that may target several environments typically. And these different environments will have different requirements. Some will have compliance policy they should map. Some will require approvals and have different degree of security and auditing requirement as well. So you can see it's not an easy setup, and also it's not like one single tool that solves the problem for you. Of course, you have a number of tools and a number of options. And oftentimes, even within the same organization, you have multiple tools that try to achieve the same goal, but maybe are the favorite tool of team Y or team Z. And so many organizations end up writing and maintaining a lot of glue code to create the connection between these different tools. And it's not only about making an API call. It's also about mapping the data models. And some tools will refer to the same type of data with different names. So you have to have translation layers there, understand what someone calls a package, the other one calls an artifact, and one calls a release, for another one is a collection, and so forth. But in some cases, the data is not even there, so you have to guess or make strange loops to get it. So a popular trend these days to try and address this, at least in kind of mid-sized, larger organization, is to build an internal development platform, which means you have a team which is dedicated to kind of solving this problem for you, taking a selection of tools, putting them together and exposing APIs for the developers. But this has also some downsides. It creates some kind of lock-in effect, because if you have a team that focuses in integrating these tools, and now you want to experiment with the next new great tool, which is just came out and you heard about at the conference, you have to convince the IDP team that you have to integrate that in everything else. So there is a lot of attrition there. Also, the IDP team, they may have to deal with missing data, broken data, and they might have a hard time like exposing a single dashboard for their developers, because every tool comes with their own dashboard. And there is a plethora of tools available out there. So this is from the Continuous Delivery Foundation landscape, and you see you have many tools for pipeline orchestration, continuous integration, and so forth. And you probably know a lot of these names. And so enter CDEvents. So we created this project to try and alleviate or address some of the issues that I've just been talking about. So CDEvents is a common specification for continuous delivery events. And what we try to do is to move from the setup that I was showing earlier with a lot of arrows going around to a situation where a lot of the tools are able to produce CDEvents and in some cases even consume them. So that means that they have a data model which is defined by CDEvents that they know about and they can understand. Also, all these events imply an event-driven architecture, of course, so these events can be sent to a broker rather than to a tool directly, which decouples things, but also allows you to have something like an evidence store which will listen to all the events and collect them in a single place, along with other data specific to your software factory. It could be like your SBOM and other important information. So our idea is that this kind of setup with CDEvents will require less glue code to be maintained over time, and will allow DevOps engineers who are developing this kind of setup to focus more on DevX features or producing nice DevOps metrics to focus on making this leaner and less expensive and so forth. And this will lead eventually as well to a better quality of data that we can get from our software factory. And the data quality is especially important when you look at the supply chain security, because you need to know what's happening in your software factory to be able to address potential security issues. So for instance, if you want to answer a question like, where is a specific artifact deployed? Because you know that a certain version of an artifact has a certain vulnerability and you're trying to track it down. So you need to know what are the environments that you need to patch to get rid of that. Or maybe you want to know how an artifact was built. And you need to, you know a certain artifact that you want to know who was involved in approving, for instance, the build of that artifact, what source code was used, what did the build pipeline look like at the moment that the artifact was built, because the build pipeline may also change over time, and so forth. And as I mentioned, data also helps with things like DevOps metrics, like DOR, this kind of things. And in the IDP space, it can also alleviate attrition by helping IDP teams swapping tools for another tool. So if you have a standard data model and you want to experiment with a new tool coming out and integrate it in your IDP, hopefully the attrition will be much less, as long as you have CDEvents supported. Oh yeah, so we had some conversation with Canu, and they had ideas for using Backstage. For instance, if you had a CDEvents Backstage plugin, you could use that to surface information coming from different tools in a single way. We don't have that yet, but if you know about Backstage and you're interested in developing it, let us know. So a bit more about CDEvents. CDEvents is a specification first. So we have several buckets with events categorized based on the area, like from SCM, testing, incidents. We're considering approvals as well in future. And CDEvent themselves, they're kind of JSON blobs. And to transport them over the network, we have bindings. So the binding we define is with Cloud Events, which is a standard payload. It's a CNCF project that allows you to kind of abstract the messaging platform that you can use. So bottom line, you can transport CDEvents on everything that Cloud Events supports. So like NATS, MQTT, HTTP, or you name it. And we have SDKs in a few languages, and hopefully more coming. We have a great community with a good mixture, diversity. So we have contributors from end users, as well as from DevOps vendors, and also some tool maintainers that contribute to our community. And if you're interested in contributing to CDEvents, I put there a QR code that takes you to the community page for CDEvents, or you can go to the CDEvents GitHub/community, and you'll find all the details, how to join the meeting, the Slack, and so forth. So what's new in the project? Our latest release is 0.4. There we introduced linked events. Linked events is a feature that allows to define relationship between events, like causality or dependency. In a way, I can say I have this deployment event, and this deployment was actually triggered because there was an artifact signed event that was happening before. So you can explicitly express this kind of relationship. And it really helps with building really fast filtering capabilities from your database of events. It also helps with things like visualization, visualizing distributed workflows, and building audit trails. We introduced ticket events to bring a bit of interoperability in the value stream management space. Think of your Jira, GitHub issues, and those kind of things. And custom events, which you can use as an CDEvents user to define your own events. If you have events which are not relevant from an interoperability point of view, You may want to have your own events, or maybe you want to prototype and so introduce quickly some new events which have a very defined schema, but they're not CD events yet, but you can then propose them to the community as official events. We also improved on the artifact events with focus on supply chain security, introducing support for SBOM links, users who created events, and so forth. And again, there is a QR code for the release announcement if you want to know more. We have also been working on something called the webhook adapter, but I won't spend too many words on this, as Andrew will tell you more about it in a moment, I think. But the idea is to transform different type of events into CD events. And also we started an initiative called the Implementation Working Group. So for a large part of the life of the project, we focused on the specification, but a lot of people ask us, okay, but what do I do if I want to actually adopt CD events? And so this group focuses on defining what it looks like. So what kind of architecture do you need to have? What kind of software and components you need to actually start using CD events in your environment? And the first thing that we are focusing on is the message bus there in the middle. I won't get into the diagram, but it's available online. For roadmap, we have some new features for the spec that we are thinking about, approvals, compositions. In terms of software, more SDKs we would like to have, like JavaScript SDK would be really good. You can use them in GitHub Actions, but we need a JavaScript contributor. So if you know JavaScript and you're interested, let us know. Webhook adapter, visualization services, we have prototypes, and the link service we want to build. And we are also looking to build some proof of concept together with the Canoe folks and with visualization. And we'll continue to drive adoptions in the various tools. So just to summarize, in a couple of words, what the main take from this talk is there is really fragmentation and a lack of standardization in the continuous delivery space. And with continuous delivery, I don't only mean CD like in deployment, but the overall software factory, starting from defining requirements to monitoring things in production. And so that means that there is complexity and costly integration that needs to be maintained. There is risk of inconsistent and incomplete data. And there is also developer fatigue for people that have to maintain the systems. And CD event is a common specification for continuous delivery events. And what CD event brings us is standardization, which gives us more flexibility, better developer experience, and also it can help building really a better supply chain security stance through data. So thanks for listening to my talk today, for being here, and here are some references. And now I pass it to Andrew, who will tell you more interesting things about CD events.